Hi everyone. So I'm Waterflame. I'm a self-taught video game composer. I've been doing music for professionally for 15 years now, but I started making music when I was like 11. So I started making music on Newgrounds. If any of you remember that website, it was mainly for Flash, and then it started developing, into more an audio side as well. I was one of the first to put audio out there, yeah, that's basically where I started. I just started doing it for fun, really. I've never had a single class or musical anything, really. I just started doing it for fun, and I taught myself along the way. And now I have YouTube with over 470,000 subscribers, made 33 albums, and made music for well over 32 games. Those are just the big ones. And I actually live solely on streaming revenue, which is, I've talked to a lot of musicians in the sphere over the years, and that seems to be the one thing they always ask me, how is that possible without, being in a label or basically selling your rights away. So that's the main thing I'm going to talk about today. Downside is I still almost have no album or merch sales. I'm still kind of trying to figure that one out, even though I do have merch. So yeah, YouTube challenges. Talk a little bit about that. So YouTube doesn't really pay, at least not for musicians. If you're one of those guys that put out music, no, what I'm saying, put out content every day, several times a day. You can make a living off YouTube, but for a musician, it's very hard to make a track a day. It's not really feasible for anyone. So even though I have 2 million views a month on my channel, it barely breaks 100,000 initially. And I also have a little bit of another problem that's unique to me, because I've been around for so long. I've been making music for 15 years professionally, and I've always been pushing my name out there. It's on my shirt and everything. So the algorithm actually think that Waterflame is not actually music now. It's a category. So it's actually been a detriment to have my name there at all. So I'll come a little bit back to that, but I actually found that having my music with my name next to it actually made it be recommended less. So I'm just in a closed loop where people that already know who I am get more Waterflame music forever, and if you never heard of me, you never will probably. So that's one of those probably unique to me pitfalls, but still something to be aware of. It can happen. I'll also talk a little bit about the other, I guess, flaws and pitfalls that I've noticed making music online for so long. For instance, I got a hefty subscriber burn from taking half a year off to compile a mega album with 50 tracks. And I thought this was going to be a big thing. I'll come back with a lot of album exclusives. It's going to be really cool, but it was actually really detrimental to my channel because I didn't have upload consistency anymore. So for those of you who don't know what subscriber burn is, it's basically that the subscribers stop being notified that you're actually doing anything. So you might have noticed if there's someone you used to follow on YouTube for a long time, and now it's oh, I guess they don't make content anymore. But in reality, they do. It's just that YouTube will never tell you because they stopped doing something for a few months. So that has happened to me a lot over the years because of things like this. Another thing I unfortunately did was I saw these you might know Lo-Fi Girl and channels like that. People that do a 24/7 radio stream channel. And I have enough music out there now to, I could actually make my own radio with just my music, since it's over 300 tracks out there. And I thought that was really cool, but the algorithm didn't. So, because in the algorithm's eyes, that was just a channel that had 5 to 10 people watching at any given time for 2 years and deemed it to be garbage. So that actually destroyed my channel more than it do anything good. So when it comes to that, my tip is really if you want to do something like that, you still can, but don't do it on your main channel unless you're pretty much guaranteed success. simply because of how the algorithm works now. And I'm going to talk a little bit about YouTube partners. So personally, I use Air Media right now. They oversee my YouTube channel. But one of the main things about that is that it allows me to change my video rights type to music video, and it unlocks premium revenue. So if any of you guys are uploading music to YouTube right now, you're actually only getting half of what revenue is actually there. You just can't access it. Usually, partners are the only ones that can enable this for you. And this was like a thing I wasn't aware of the better half of my career. So once I actually activated that, and I activated this on all of my 300 tracks plus, it doubled my monthly revenue like over the month. And usually this is like revenue that will just go into the ether. If no one claims it for 3 years, it's gone. And no one tells you that. Well, I'm telling you that now. And also the thing about having a partner is that it's easier to do personalized content idea. That's been another problem for me, that since I have music in a lot of games, and I also release music as an artist, but it's still free to use for normal people that wants to use it in their video games and whatever. It confuses a lot of, if I had it in a normal publishing sense. There's like you have to explain each and every situation there, and having a partner there is very important, because then you have someone that actually has direct connection with you and they can fix the problem in a promptly manner, versus if you have a huge network instead, they can still fix it for you, but they have thousands of other artists to deal with as well. So it's going to take a long time, and it might be already too late for that channel you're trying to help. Which brings me to music distribution. So right now I'm using DistroKid and TuneCore. Depends what's right for you, but these are ones I've been using for the better half of my career. Right now I'm using DistroKid a little bit more. So that brings me to like one of the main things I want to tell you guys today is how I survive of all this revenue is to not sign exclusivity and to not go in with any labels. Like I've had plenty of labels come up to me and they want me to be in their label, but they take a huge cut. And when people want you to sign exclusivity, you lose your rights to your track. So I self-published with Spotify and Apple and all of this through TuneCore and DistroKid without having that middleman. And Spotify is now currently the majority of my income. And I want to mention there as well that this year, Spotify Discovery Mode is out for pretty much everyone to use. And that thing is magic, basically. So once I turned that on for my most popular track, I got 100,000 new followers in a month. And that is not they're not fake views or anything. They're actually real people that want to listen to your music and like it. It's just an optimized version of the algorithm that will push it out to the people that actually wants to hear it. The downside is that they take a cut, but it's viewers that you will probably never have unless you turned it on to begin with. So I see it as like just a huge plus in general. And to touch a little bit more on the exclusivity part as well. And the labels, like I've actually shied labels personally. Like for some people it works really well, but I'm more of a video game artist, not so much a staged artist. And things like exclusivity actually like kills the revenue for me. An example is I made music for games like Castle Crashers, Geometry Dash, things that are pretty much evergreen, like at least games like Geometry Dash is a music game, so people come back and they use the tracks again and again. And if I sold that to Castle Crashers the first time, it would never be in Geometry Dash, because they would already own my track. I would have no say in it. So you can't resell your track ever again. It's not yours. So you might be tempted to like take a huge bag for one track one time, but then you might regret it later when someone actually asks if that's available. So it's more of a long game, but I say it's the better strategy. I'll just take a little swig of this real quick. I'm a little bit under the weather, so. The next thing I want to talk about is PROs and royalties. So these are like basically rights organizations that take care of your music rights in your country. And this is also one of those things that a lot of musicians that just start from their bedroom have no idea actually exist. So in Norway, where I'm from, it's called Tono. In the US, it's BMI. There's actually two others, but those are like, that's the big one. And in France, it's SACEM. But the thing is, all of these PROs, they talk to each other as well. And I can explain a little bit more what a PRO is. It's they basically take care of your rights, your music rights. And if, for instance, a track were used here today and I wasn't here, and they actually register it as they're supposed to by law, then it will be tracked through your PRO. So it's happened to me that suddenly I get like $8,000 coming from I don't know where, and it turns out like The Voice, like the show, and has used my music. And they would have used that regardless, because in France the rules are a little bit different. So if they find that track online, they're going to use it, and if you haven't registered it, that's your problem. So that would be money that I would never see or never know about if I wasn't registered here. So I think that's like a very important thing to do almost like first of all. And there's companies like TuneCore, like mentioned before, or Songtrust. They do publishing admin, and they deal with the PRO for you, which means that if I put out the song now and I publish it through TuneCore, they will already tell my PRO that this is a new song that's out, and they register it for me, so I don't have to also like deal with registering in a third party, because some of these PROs are more old-fashioned and it takes a while to register. But also a big thing with this is that they have the ability to collect mechanical royalties for you, which is a third part of your royalties that you also sometimes, like, you don't know they're there. And if they're not collected, again, they vanish after 3 years. But that's the kind of trifecta of royalties. So most people actually just get one part of the royalties their own and wonder why they're not making any money of their music. But yeah, most of it is just lost, basically. So that's like one of the main things. You have to register with your country's PRO. So like it says there, that's like 1/4 of my income is just PRO alone, on top of the streaming. And these are still the same tracks. I don't have to do anything else. I just have to know where to register it. And yeah, I'm going to talk a little about sync licensing, which is basically a fancy word for licensing, which means when a game or an ad or like anything really uses your music and they license out your music, that's a sync license. And personally, I started on Newgrounds, like I mentioned, which is like a creative site. And I can tell like a little story there where I made a track called Glorious Morning, which was they had a competition on Newgrounds. They were making Castle Crashers, which is like one of the games that put me on the map a little bit. I entered for that competition, and I actually placed 4th. I didn't make it. But then I got contacted later, and I wanted to use my music anyway. And yeah, that can be considered a sync license. But so through this, this was like one of my first biggest jobs, which I'll do like a little side note from this here, but I think also it's really important, at least I think for me personally, when I'm done with a track and I think it's good, I just throw it out there. Because because of just things like this. Like I would never have gotten this job if the other tracks weren't available for the publisher to see and ask for availability. And since I know I own the rights to my own tracks and I don't sell them away, I could confidently say like, yeah, they're available. You can buy them, as long as I keep the rights and you credit me. But I've gotten a little bit more into like professional sync licensing in the past years, and for that I use a site called Music Gateway, or a company, and that's for films, ads, and games. They have basically to gamify it a little bit. It's like a bounty board, where it's like there might be something as short as like a 2-day turnover, where the BMW needs music for their new car commercial, and they need it in 2 days, and they have like a very specific description of what they need there. But the price tag might be anything from $1,000 to $100,000, and for most musicians, like if you land just one of them, you're good for the rest of the year. So that's there's many other sites where you can find these things, but I mainly use Music Gateway. I find it to be the easiest place to use. So this is like a place where they're requesting music. And then there's Disco, which is something else. It's basically LinkedIn for music, where your music is searchable by music supervisors. So I also painstakingly put all my tracks in there, all the information, all the ISRC, BPM, mood, everything like that. But once it's done, you have a full catalog of everything you made and what it fits for, which is great for supervisors because they work for these companies, like for instance BMW. If they're looking for music for a car commercial and they need to find it fast, they'll go to places like this and look for the track. And it might be that something like never happens, but you might also get lucky and get like the best deal you've ever had for doing pretty much nothing else but being in a catalog. So that's also one of those things that I really think you should take the time to do, because you never know. You should be there. You should be available. And there's no exclusivity needed for sync. Personally, I think it's outdated. Like I mentioned, the pay is huge, even though it's non-exclusive. So even though someone wanted to give you $100,000 for a beer commercial, they might want you to like not do anything with that song for a few months, but it's still yours. You still own all the rights, and you got all the money, and you did nothing. So it's a very good deal once you first land it. But that's also why I think it's so bad to sell away your exclusive rights, because then you lock yourself out of opportunities and deals like this, where you might think 2 years later, like, I had the absolute perfect song for this sync brief, but I don't own it anymore. So now I'm just sad, and so that's really one to avoid. And now I want to share a little bit about what I picked up over the years. So, like I said, I've been making music professionally for 15 years. And I also dabble in art a little bit. This is my pixel art, by the way. So what I've really noticed is that the first day of release matters absolutely the most, or the first few days, let's say. For YouTube, it will basically determine like if this is a hot topic or if it's just like some random upload, because there's millions of videos going up to YouTube all the time, and it's really like the first initial push that makes it go to the next stage. So wherever you have planned of promotion and ads or whatever it is, telling your friends, it should all happen on the first day or the first few days. Like if you trickle it out too much, it might already be too late. And specifically also for Spotify, they have something called Release Radar, which is basically like a multiplier. So it only updates on Fridays, but so if you target, for instance, Friday for your release, and you put the release out on all your socials on Friday, you might have a chance to get on Release Radar, which if you use Spotify, that's basically the place most people find new music. And from there, it can snowball and be like a very dynamic growth that you don't really have to work for that much after that, but you need to get on the Release Radar. So the initial push is actually extremely important, which is something I wasn't like very fussed with in the beginning, but that also turned out to like be kind of detrimental. Yeah, we'll do the questions soon. Oh yeah, and this one again is a little bit more specific to me since I've been around for so long, but including artist name in titles turned out to like really not be a good idea. I thought it was really strengthening my brand, but it turned out to be a little bit too much. And also when you think about it, when most people use phones to find music, and when you scroll down on a phone and you see just like Waterflame, 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 and you don't actually even like see the titles, that's yeah, it's not a good thing. So I would actually argue to not do that. You already see who's uploaded the thing by the user. So you can be creative and call it like something like, oh, what if I mixed synth with banjo or something. Like you don't even need to use the title, but just like to make people actually click the thing. Because even though I don't like it personally, that's kind of how it is right now. And also to pin all your links. In my case, the Spotify link is the most important because that's where I get most of the revenue. But to pin it at the top of the YouTube comments, because most users, after they've finished watching the video or in the middle of the video, they'll go straight to the comments. But how YouTube is designed right now, pretty much no one clicks the description, and you can see that in the stats too, where it's like people actually don't know what you write there unless you say, you still have to tell them in the comments. So pinning everything that's important, mainly the links, at the top, that does a lot to circulate traffic so that they check out your other streaming services as well. And last but not least, I do have merch. I do sell albums like on Bandcamp and stuff, but I've actually never had much success with that. Like people come, they listen to my music, they know it's free to listen to, but it doesn't really go much beyond that. Like at least that might be specific to me, but my audience don't really buy merch. So it's not really a viable source of income for me. So there, like if you guys have any suggestions, I'm all ears. But so yeah, that's a little bit about how I do things. And I figured this kind of conversation is also very unique to individual artists and how they do things. I'm very much a guy that doesn't show my face on camera very much. I like to let the music speak for me, but also that that doesn't necessarily drive traffic in the same way as like a beautiful person being there singing, So things work differently for different people. But I figured from here, we can just have a Q&A. So if you guys have questions, that'll be it for me, and we can do a Q&A. Yeah, shoot.
Great overview. You mentioned that it really helps to have your video pop when you release it. How can you make sure that it does that, in addition to just like telling your friends, hey guys, make sure you like.
Right. So
check it out this time.
That depends on. Oh, you can still stand there. Yeah. But that depends on kind of what other social media you use. So for me, it's Twitter, but I realized like going around here on VidCon the past few days that I really need Instagram because everyone asks me for my Insta and I don't have it. So it really depends where your audience is and where you've like kind of cultivated an audience. So wherever it is, you have to push that basically. And also. I would also say use things like if your audience is on YouTube, you would have to use things like the community tab. Like whenever you post something, also put it there, because often people, again, because of subscriber burn, they might not actually get the notification that you've done anything, but they have a chance to see the comment or the community post. So just use like every avenue, but do it basically at the same time. Like I don't use much ads either, but if you have a budget for ads as well, it's smart to put it all on that one day, actually, to just like drive traction for that first initial push.
Do you provide any incentives, like I'll retweet you, or I don't know, do something fancy to get people to actually do it? You can say all you want, but how to get people to really do it?
Again, I'd say like I'm a little bit careful with that. Depends on your audience. Like for me, I try to like not really push anything on anyone. I'm just like I'm here, but I also know that it might be good for me to actually be a little bit more pushy with that, so to speak. So it might, unless it doesn't like offend or scare your type of audience, it can be a good thing, or it can be like something that like, oh no, you're a sellout now, you know. So you got to read your audience and talk to them, see what works.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. That was really great.
Thanks.
I'm a music guy, my channels and stuff too, so I loved it.
Awesome.
But first, before I get to my question, I do have a suggestion, if that's okay.
Go for it. Yeah, I'm here to learn too.
Okay, cool. I was gonna say, with your knowledge and what you do and whatnot, I think it'd be cool if you made an online course. There's plenty of people who would love to learn about it and this stuff, especially with you. You can also have people being self-taught, having done it. Usually intimidates people when I feel like I don't know all the schooling and stuff or whatnot, but I think you really resonate with a lot of people and great source of passive income as well.
Yeah, thank you. I have been considering it, but I'll definitely take that to heart, like actually making a course. Because again, since I'm like self-taught, I'm kind of being a bit humble about it, but I realize that there might be more people that don't know this stuff. So I know it was a little bit rapid fire, but yeah, thank you.
So my question is, do you find that there are certain libraries that are better for certain kinds of music that bigger companies will pull from? Because you mentioned like Gateway and Disco, which I never heard of before. I've heard of maybe bigger ones like Audio Jungle and the marketplace for video games.
Right, so I might not have been very clear there. So there's a distinction there. So for Audio Jungle, they usually, I don't know the company very well, but if I understand it correctly, they buy up tracks to have in their library. So they've already bought you. That's not the same. So a sync library, you're basically just hosted there, but they don't own anything. So, but all of these sync libraries they're just as good. It just depends on really what kind of supervisors frequent those places. But that's also kind of a close community you won't really know, because you know there's not as many music supervisors as there are artists, obviously. So. But they probably check out like most of them, I'd say. So if you have a fleshed out catalog with many different types of styles, you have a better chance of getting noticed. But there's no one sync site for just country music and then one for techno. No, it's all the same place.
Okay, so you don't find there's one type that gets pulled more than another?
No, absolutely not. It's more like more the fact that there's like probably like 1,000 other people that tried for that sync that day, so they might just not pick you. That's more it. So it's like one of those don't give up kind of things where you might try 1,000 times and then 1,001 time you'll get rich. So.
Okay, cool. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Awesome. Thanks for the session. Really informative. I have two questions. One around you were talking earlier about EMI and pros and uploading your music to those providers.
Yeah.
If you're just getting started and maybe I haven't made all of the samples I use, maybe use like a splice or something like that.
Yeah.
So my question is, if you haven't made all your own samples, can you still use that? And my second question is just around Spotify's discovery, and just can you talk maybe a little bit more about that? How it's helping out?
Yeah. So the first thing, like I splice and slice things all the time. And there you just have to like kind of look into the laws of what do you call it, like fair use, and there's a certain point where you edit something so much that it becomes yours. Like I mean I've used vocals for things, but like this is unique to me again. But I have this like style where I might use vocal chops, but there's never actually words. I use them more like instruments. So there's no way really anyone can know where they're from. So that is so transformative that like not even the owner themselves could identify it. So then you're totally fine. But however, if you have like a complete verse from like Dr. Dre or something, then that's going to be a problem, right? Then you have to license it. So that one is a little bit tricky. It's like kind of really been since the 90s. So if you feel like your gut feeling like this is sampled a little bit too heavy. It probably is. So you just gotta see there. And what was your second question?
The second question is just you talking maybe a little bit more around Spotify's Spotify Discovery or something like that, and how it's kind of been a game changer for you. And you said there's like a pay mechanism, or they take a cut or something like that.
Yeah, so Spotify Discovery Mode is very new, like it was in beta, and just got out of beta recently. And I actually don't know the criteria myself for when you're eligible, but it seems like you are pretty much instantly. And what that does is you can put your tracks on Discovery Mode through the Spotify for Artists page. I think it takes a 30% cut of everything it brings in, but that's every like new thing it brings in. So I found that it's way better to do it with the tracks that already do well, because it's a multiplier. So if you do it on the track with like 2 listens a month, you're gonna get 4. And that's not, but if you do it with one that has like 1,000 or 10,000 a month, then that's gonna add up quickly. So I'd say just experiment with that, like what works and what doesn't, versus like how much of a cut they take. But for me, it was like an instant game changer, yeah, because I've been around for a while. So.
Thank you.
No problem.
So I just wanted to say, firstly, real quick, that you're one of my favorite artists of all time.
Oh, cool, thank you.
I first saw The Time Machine on my YouTube recommendation page in 2010.
When I was still recommended, yeah.
Well, I found it through YouTube, and to this day, it's still my top 25 favorite songs of all time.
Thank you, thank you.
Very few songs have made it in that top 100 for those 13 years. So.
I appreciate it, yeah. Do you have any other question?
Actual question. So how much of your income would you say comes from commissions for games, and is that something that you like look forward to, or is it something that you're like, oh, I would rather make my own songs and release them and hopefully people on Spotify listen to them, but this is just something to make money on the side, or is it something that excites you?
It started more as like more of a necessity, because like full disclosure, I went from like working a daytime job, doing music on the side, and then I could lower the percentage until that was actually my full-time job. It took a long while, but so before it was definitely more commission-based, but now it's like I have the luxury to pick project I think is cool, or project that obviously pays a lot, if I think I'm a good fit. But it's definitely more like when I do a commission now, it's a bonus, because of how I do licensing. I always go for a non-exclusive contract, which means that, again, no one owns my stuff. They just have a license. Even though I make the music for them and it's affiliated with them, I still have all the rights to put out my own music after the fact. Like, as long as the game is out, I'm selling the album for that game on my own. Like, they get no cut. And that's part of the deal, like that, or there's no deal from me. But that's like, again, a unique thing that I do that most people don't like dare to ask for. But that also means that the commission will pay less initially. So usually I get like one sum initially, and that's it. But then again, I have the right to share it, and it can like start generating revenue for me on the streaming sites after the fact. So that's like the strategy I've chosen instead of the exclusivity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, cats is not appreciated.
Hey, what's happening?
Hello.
My name is Jordan Zuda. I'm a DJ Chef music producer.
DJ Chef?
DJ Chef music producer. So my content is about food and music.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the recipes I make, I've been making it for like 5 years, and now I'm integrating music together with it. So I would like to get advice from you, like what I should do, like to.
So is it like, are you making like a beat that goes with the dish, or is it more like, are you actually sampling the food for the track?
I never, like do some Foley and put it to music.
Oh, that's awesome.
Actually, like I would make the recipes and then I put my music in the background. So like I know this my whole community is like the food community, but what I'm trying to get into is like EDM. release like a DJ.
Right, yeah.
So like, I'm trying to like figure out like what I should do.
I mean,
I'm already like 500,000 with subscribers on YouTube.
that's great.
It's like the fact that like the road of just recipes and then out of nowhere it's like music. I don't know how to.
Yeah, no, but that already sounds like a really unique, cool thing. So it sounds more like marketing would be your problem if you feel like you have any problem, like to just like kind of sell that idea more. Because do you also put things on Spotify and yeah, you release it? So yeah, as long as you like register everything like the proper way, you should like you have pretty much the same number of subscribers that I do on YouTube. So you should see the same type of revenue if you have the same traction, as long as you're registered in all these things. So
So just keep doing the same thing.
yeah, like if it works, yeah, absolutely. But I would also like, since you have a unique thing going, just like sell that for all it's worth. You know, like you could also use things like YouTube Shorts and promote it on other things like TikTok. You know, because it sounds like a more thing that you can be more visual with as well, since you're like you're making food and you have the DJ set next to you, I assume. So yeah, it just sounds like you just got to keep going. Thank you.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey.
As far as the t-shirts, I was thinking live streaming on Twitch or TikTok.
That's an avenue I haven't really tried much on yet, yeah.
Because they're big on video games, so they're probably a month for you to talk.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to start streaming more on Twitch and do like live DJ sets and stuff there. Kind of like start making that a thing. It's just like, again, like all other content creators, I kind of struggle with the consistency of like having to have a stream, while also sometimes I'm on 2 commission deadlines and I'm like flying places like here. So for me, it's more like finding a routine for that. But that's one of the next things that I'm going for next, definitely.
And then a question.
Yeah.
I never heard of Air Media, so we can talk about how you started with that and your websites and all that.
Yeah, I feel like I actually didn't brag about Air Media enough, because I met them at VidCon actually last year and a Vid Summit, and they've been amazing for me. Like they optimize things in the back end, like actually putting IRC codes on my tracks now that I can access the premium revenue, which again is like now that it's considered like a real music video. Every track I make, there's that extra revenue, but also it makes it infinitely easier to deal with claims and stuff like that, because you have someone personally actually that can talk to you every day and you work with them like on a more close level. They do take a cut, but what they've helped me earn since I got with them is like dwarfing the cut they take. So it's definitely more of just like finding the what's right for your type of channel, what partnership you want. But yeah, I'm definitely all for getting a partnership. Absolutely.
Is that through YouTube or is that just a different website?
What was that, sorry?
Like the Air Media, is it like airmedia.com?
Oh, it's air.io. Is their website. I think they actually had a talk at the exact same time I did right now, so sorry for taking their spot, but they'll be around here actually, so yeah, you should look for them.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Since you're super busy to try putting your content on all these other platforms, would you hire someone to help you coordinate that, like that super fan right there? Or
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm actually part of like what I'm hoping to find while I'm here is like someone that can represent me more in LA, but also I'm also looking for like representation on different sites. It's just that personally I'm like I need to know that they know what I'm about, basically, because I feel like it could also get like very kind of forced or commercial very fast, and my image is more like laid back. I don't use my face that much. I don't do like promotions or anything like that. It's just like the music speaks for itself. So, but I'm definitely open to that. Yeah, like finding someone that could kind of help me branch out there. And by the way, also again, Air Media, they do that as well on other channels as well. So right now, I got on Bilibili, which is a Chinese network, which I normally wouldn't have access to at all. But I got that through Air Media, so we'll see how that goes now that I'll have representation in China. So yeah, so definitely branching out. Sorry.
Hi, I was wondering, so right now I currently have like a presence on YouTube creating documentaries.
Cool.
But I was a music producer and I plan on getting back into that. And I was wondering if you had any recommendations on, I guess, moving my audience from that documentary niche to be able to at least, you know, like follow me into my music career if I were to do that.
Right. I mean, that's also like a little hard territory when I don't really know what, like, how your audience is. But I would say just start like integrating your other hobby into the documentary more and more. So like make it known. If you have a documentary, use your own music in it. And also maybe at the end of it, you can be like, hey, and also, by the way, I made this new beat. It would be cool if you checked it out, you know. Nothing like very intrusive, but just like start to make your fans aware that you are doing another thing as well. So that like you can slowly transition that. And then I would eventually like think that you could start uploading that like in conjuncture when everyone's like kind of, everyone knows and is comfortable with the fact that you do two things. But if you just drop them on day one, I think it will be like, okay, it's a DJ now, what happened, you know? So yeah, I think just like a slow transition and seeing how your audience react will be the best way to go about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, any other questions? Any takers? Oh, am I? Yeah, it's good for time. Yeah, well, that's it for me then. Thank you so much for listening.